Hello folks, this is Sula once again. Welcome to another video for Teamfight Tactics. So this is going to be a special video. This is from the very beginning of Set 5 of Teamfight Tactics. Set 5 is known as Reckoning, and it's actually not even out yet as I'm recording this video. This is taken from the public beta environment, the PBE. And so I am going to be playing on a PBE account along with Willow, who's also in this game with me, and then a bunch of random people that we do not know. So this is the new setup. Obviously, there are a lot of elements that'll carry over from set to set, but there's different background graphics, and there is, of course, a whole new different set of champions with different traits and abilities, different items, and the big mechanic that's being added here in set 5 are shadow items, which we'll talk more about. Set 4, the main mechanic that they featured was the chosen mechanic, where, of course, you would have one chosen on your team and they would count as 2 copies of a trait. In set 5, the big mechanic is having the presence of shadow items that are items that have some kind of an effect that is different from the standard item. Every item has both a standard version and then a shadow version, with the shadow version typically being similar to the actual item, but having some other extra kind of effect to it. So we'll get to see that soon enough. A couple quick background things about the shadow items. You can never get them from a minion round. The only way to get them are from a carousel or alternately from this new feature known as the Armory, which pops up before the second before the second PvP round of each stage. There's this new feature known as the Armory, where you get a chance to pick between 2 or sometimes 4 items, and usually at least one of them will be a shadow item. So shadow items are a little bit trickier to get because they don't drop from minion rounds. And in my opinion, you usually should probably try to take a shadow item if you can, just because they're harder to get, at least from the Armory. But of course, if you need some other item, then it's not something you always take. Just something that you probably should be more likely to take because it's harder to get the shadow items. Well, in any case, we have new champions here, and I am not going to pretend that I know all of these champions. So I will be doing my best as this game goes along to try to explain what's going on here and some of the traits. So I'll probably just try to focus on the traits that are actually in the game. I am going to go ahead and make a locket of the Iron Solari here. That is, of course, an item that's been around for a very long time. I thought it would make the most sense because I had a bunch of frontliners here. I had the items for it. And locket is quite good in the early game, always has been. In fact, you can see on the interface up there's a little box icon next to stage 2-2, which will indicate that it's going to be the Armory feature. So we'll get to see that after this round. As far as traits, I'm running Brawler. Brawler is basically unchanged. It has been the same in most of the patches where it pops up. It provides additional health. I think it's 400 health, 800 health. But again, this is PBE, and stuff is going to change quickly. This was from the very first day of PBE for set 5. So expect a lot of these numbers to change. It's probably more useful to just describe what the traits do than any exact numbers, because you can expect them to shift around as the game goes on. All right, here is our Armory round. So I have the choice between Sprawling Gloves, I always call them Brawler's Gloves, and the Shadow version of the Needlessly Large Rod. So again, this is similar to the normal Needlessly Large Rod, but there are different effects on all of these items. I didn't particularly want the Ionic Dark Spark, so I don't believe I make this. It's similar to the normal Dark Spark, except that it can zap allies as well as enemies. And typically the shadow items have some kind of negative effect to go along with the normal effect. They usually are a bit more powerful, but also have some kind of negative effect. Not always, but that tends to be the case. So as I mentioned, I'm basically playing a bunch of frontliners. I have Brawler in and Dawnbringer. Dawnbringer's, the description was briefly highlighted there. I've got a list of all the traits as they are currently. Again, expect them to change because this is very early on PBE. But Dawnbringers rapidly heal some of their maximum health when they drop below 50%. And when this occurs, all Dawnbringers gain some bonus damage. It's currently 10%, but might change. So Dawnbringers, again, basically get healing as they drop low. When they drop below 50%, they get a big surge of healing. And the more Dawnbringers you have in, the more healing that comes back as a result of having the trait in. So, as I said, right now, I just have a bunch of frontliners right now. I do not really have a carry in my comp, just a bunch of tanky boys up in the front line. So that's something that I'm going to need to find as this match goes on, because this will work for the early stages, but it's not going to work long term. As far as the champions that I actually have in there, again, some of them are easier to spot with their character models than other. Gragas is pretty easy to spot. Gragas on the right-hand side. The one that was really throwing me is the one I have highlighted right here, Udyr. I was like, that's Udyr? It doesn't look like Udyr at all to me, so I do question the choice of that particular Udyr skin because it literally looks nothing like him as far as I'm concerned, but that's Udyr. I'm sure we'll get used to it in time. And then I also have Set, who is a 2-cost champion in this set, not a 5-cost champion. He just punches forward instead of doing the big dunk. And then on the left-hand side, we have Riven. So those are the champions I have in. From right to left, Gragas, Udyr, Set, and Riven, who are all basically frontliners, except for Riven, who is a bit more of like a damage champ. I was up against Willow there, and I did win the round, which was nice to keep my win streak going, but would have preferred not to, put 8 damage on Willow, who had also been win streaking up to that point in time. So now we'll have our carousel. I do want to mention that carousels have been changed a little bit. They dropped the time associated with the carousels. Previously, each pair of 2 champions had 8 seconds to pick, and it's been dropped down to 6 seconds, and it's actually very noticeable that there's less time now to pick. So you have to make your decision very quickly. Also, this is where you can get shadow items. I hope that they make the shadow items a little bit more visible graphically. So, for example, that is a shadow giant's belt that I just picked up. It has a very small green outline around it, but it's pretty easy to miss. So I really hope that they're able to do something to make it a bit more visually distinctive. So I went ahead and picked up that Nunu off Carousel. And yes, that's Nunu. Doesn't look anything like Nunu. He has like this demon skin or something. So I go ahead and sell the Nunu to get the item off him. And then drop in the Aatrox here after leveling. So I picked up the Shadow's Giant's Belt. I was thinking about making the evil version of the Morellonomicon, which is a Giant's Belt plus Needlessly Large Rod. And by the way, the new graphics on these items just look awful. I know that they are pulled over from Summoner's Rift. I knew that they were going to do this at some point in time, but ye gods, do those item graphics just look horrible. I really don't understand why Riot decided that this was the direction they wanted to go for League, and then of course port over from League to Teamfight Tactics. But anyway, enough of that. I'm sure we'll get used to it in time, but yikes. It just not visually clear. It just honestly looked like garbage as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I said I was trying to make the evil version of Morellonomicon here, because it puts a burn effect that is really quite strong. It lasts actually for the entire state. It lasts for, it burns, right now it burns 100% of the target's health over 25 seconds. So it applies like a huge healing debuff that just lasts for the entire combat and eventually burns away any of 100% of the people's health. But I didn't have a good person to put the Evil Morellicon on. It wasn't clear to me I had a good person who could apply it to a lot of individuals. I was thinking Set because he kind of punches in a straight line, but ultimately I decided, you know what, let's hold to the next minion round and see what we get before we commit this, because it is a somewhat wasteful to use 2 shadow items to make shadow something. You certainly can do it. You only need one of the 2 components to be an evil item or shadow item or whatever it is to get the effect. Or you can make it with both. It works just fine in each of those cases. But I figured I'd wait until the minion round to see what happened there. I also dropped the Aatrox at the last second. Aatrox is providing Legionnaire, which is somewhat similar to the Duelist trait in that it provides attack speed here in set 5. So at the last second I dropped that and tossed in Zyra for Draconic. And Draconic is basically this game's version of Fortune. The playing Draconic champions will put little dragon eggs on your bench, and then they hatch after a few rounds. I actually don't really like the Draconic trait very much. See, there's the first little dragon egg, and then it'll hatch after a couple of rounds. I don't really like this trait because, unlike Fortune, where you had to actively win a stage in order to get the benefit from Fortune, Draconic is very passive. You get the benefit from just having the trait in, and then over time it'll deliver, more items and more champions. Depending on how long you run the trait and at what level you run the trait. Draconic 5, if you can get it, apparently causes your units to, gives you golden eggs that are more powerful, but you need a legendary unit, Heimerdinger, to get Draconic 5, so it's a lot trickier to get the Draconic 5 version. So anyway, not a huge fan of the trait, don't really love it that much, but that is something that everyone needs to be aware of, because if someone is running Draconic, for the whole game, they are going to stack up a pretty significant benefit. So like right there, the first egg hatches, and it gives me Udyr as a champion, who I just immediately sell for 2 gold. As of here, I go ahead and take out the set, and I just toss in Nunu, because it's a better version of the Brawler trait. And then I just drop Draconic immediately. I'm sorry if you wanted to watch eggs hatch, but it doesn't really provide... I don't believe it provides a combat bonus right now, so I just go ahead and sell that. As of right now, I'm looking to try and itemize some of my units. I do need to itemize something here, so I'm going to go ahead and start building items towards some kind of ranged carry, whether that is... I was thinking going into the game, maybe I would play some Rangers. Rangers are like your standard auto attackers. I was thinking maybe I would play that, but at this point I haven't really been finding too much in the way of Rangers, so ultimately was opting not to go that route. But I figured I would probably want Runan's Hurricane on someone, so I could make that item. Still holding off on committing some of these other items, because I didn't really like some of the items that I could make here. For example, I had the option to make... Oh, and here we go. Now I get the needlessly get a BF sword here. I actually had no shadow items there, but I'm able to make an item that I really like. And this is one of the few shadow items that I already have some familiarity with. And that is the evil version of Zeke's. It's called Zeke's Black Herald in this. One of the things that I found just in the very, very, very early testing here is that it seems as though the aura shadow items are quite strong overall. So what does the evil herald do? Well, it instead of what herald normally does, which is to grant attack speed to the people standing next to it, it actually steals attack speed from the 2 units next to the one holding it. It actually sucks away 30% attack speed from the 2 units standing next to the person with the herald's banner, but it gives that attack speed to the person that holds the banner. Right now the numbers are 30% attack speed stolen, and then 40% attack speed gained by the unit holding the evil banner. So that's a lot of attack speed. That's up to 80% attack speed on the person holding it. I mean, that's just enormous. 80% bonus attack speed granted to the one holding it. Now, again, you have to take it away from other units, but like it's generally not that hard to take some units that you don't care about and steal stats away from them to give it to someone you do care about. In particular, the evil version of Chalice is similar. It, although in reverse, Chalice, the evil Chalice, it takes away ability power from the person holding it and then gives ability power to the 2 people standing next to them. So these items, these aura items, are really strong that are the evil versions. There it is, yeah. I didn't highlight it long enough, but you have to trust my word for it. So I'm kind of running Riven as my carry right now. Riven is not a great carry in this game. She has the Legionnaire trait, so she gets that additional attack speed, and then she gets a ton of attack speed from having the evil Zeke's Herald. And then I also have the, Hurricane on her, which is not a good item for Riven, but she is in fact getting the bolts dancing to other targets. But mostly that's just her holding the item for a future carry of some kind down the road. But yeah, so Riven's basically serving as my carry. So she does the most damage in these fights. Again, Legionnaire trait gives attack speed, and then her other trait I actually have to look up because I am very much still learning this game. Other trait is Dawnbringer. So she also has the Dawnbringer that causes her to heal when she drops below 50% health for the first time. So I've actually won the first 8 stages here, so beginner's luck to be sure. And that, of course, means I pick last on Carousel. Once again, it's I've mentioned that it's really hard visually to see which ones are the evil items. I think that there is an evil Giant's Belt, an evil Tear. Those got snapped up pretty quickly. So at this point, it's like, do I want a sword or do I want a cloak? So I opt to take the cloak, or the sword over the cloak, even though it is a 1-cost. It's on a 1-cost unit. Or no, never mind. It's on Brand. I believe Brand's a 2-cost unit. Yeah, 2-cost unit. And by the way, I'm actually getting gold so fast. It's actually hard for me to level here. I'm actually getting gold so quickly that I can't even apply these. So I just go ahead, opt to go to level 7 here because I'm rich enough that it doesn't really cost me much income. I'm going to toss the BF sword on Riven to give her more damage, and then I toss in another unit. I just put in the luck so I can play another unit. Now I have brought in another trait here, which is Abomination, and Abomination's a fun trait in this patch to be sure, or in this set to be sure. What Abomination does is it's kind of like having Cultist in the sense that as you summon an extra unit to appear on the battlefield, and just as Galio is stronger depending on how many cultists you are running, Abomination is stronger depending on how many abominations you're running. As your abomination units die, it summons a Scion who will pop up from the graveyard and then go in and start attacking. And he can actually pick up items that you have on some of your champions, although it's random which items that you have he ends up getting. In my very brief experience, Abomination is pretty strong for the early game because, again, it relies on Abomination champions, which tend to be early game focused. And it falls off a bit in the late game in the same way that Cultist fell off in the late game. So here I go ahead and opt to drop the the Abomination, just so I can play Yasuo, who is a better version of Legionnaire. I was running Callista because she had Legionnaire, and then at the last second I decide, you know what? Let's go up to 4 Legionnaire, which is a much bigger attack speed bonus. This drops the Brawler benefit, but gives me more attack speed. Is that better? I don't really know. It's very early in this game, so that would be more damage at the cost of a little bit less front line. Now, there is a mistake here with my positioning that I realized as this game was going on, and in fact, I just highlighted it with my mouse. I have Lux in here. Lux has Mystic. Oh, by the way, you can see there's an enemy Scion in here with a Guardian Angel. And that's going to be a bit problematic for me. We actually both have Scions in, but the other person has a higher tier of Abomination in, and the Scion has a Guardian Angel. So this is probably not going to go too well for me. And yeah, so unfortunately, I can't carry that win streak all the way through to the minion round. I don't know if taking out the units that I took out was a mistake or not. I'm not sure. I do get an early Kindred here, who's a legendary unit. There's the 1% odds, and then I also get Rise, who's another Mystic. And I was like, all right, well, I have to get Mystic into this comp somehow. I made a mistake earlier in my positioning because the Lux will toss her shield to the enemy to the ally that's furthest away from her, and she was tossing it to Callista and not shielding anyone on the front lines. Although it's going to take a little time for me to fix that positioning here. But I picked up Rise, who's a Mystic champion, and I also picked up Kindred, who's another Mystic champion. There's a lot of high-level Mystic champs in this game. I end up making a mistake here as well. I'm going to keep the Lux in this comp. What I really should do is take Lux out and play the Rise and the Kindred, but I think I ultimately just forget about this and end up playing the Lux over the Kindred, which is definitely a mistake because Kindred is a legendary unit in this game. Note that there's also a Mystic 3 tier, and it's actually very powerful. I also maybe should have just looked into playing Mystic 3 as a tier here. Mystic 3 instead of Mystic 2. But again, still trying to learn this, still trying to figure out what these items are. I now have an evil version, and I still have that evil rod that I haven't done anything with. And I've got more items that I can go ahead and try to make here. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. Again, it's still very, very early in this set. One day into the PBE, so I'm very much trying to learn what I'm doing here. I'm sure that a lot of this is not at all the ideal best in slot choices. My Scion, now that I'm at Abomination 3, is a stronger version of Scion. He's picked up that Locket of the Iron Solari, but he's still ultimately going to lose this round. And in fact, I'm going to end up losing a number of rounds here, which is going to make sense because who is my carry right now? Well, it's probably still Riven. And here I'm going to go ahead and get more options. This is the Armory again, and this time I get to pick between 4 different items. And I'm looking at the different options. I was like, well, I already have a Shadow Needlessly Large Rod. How about we take a Shadow Bow as well? Again, I still don't know if that was the right choice or not. I am holding on to some Shadow versions, or what is it, Forgotten Champions. Those are the champions that are green on the side of my bench. And there I unfortunately sell the Kindred, which was not a good decision. Should have played Kindred over the Lux here for sure. Definitely would have been better. But a lot of this is me just trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with these items. So there is the evil version of the Archangel Staff, which, by the way, is a new item. Ludens has been replaced with Archangel Staff. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on Rise because he seems like the person who can most use it. I will read the description of this new staff, the new Archangel Staff. So the base Archangel Staff is each time the wearer casts their ability, they gain ability power equal to 35% of their max mana. So basically, it is tier plus rod. And if you put an Archangel Staff on them, they keep getting more AP. Equal to a percentage of their max mana. The evil version of it is, each time the holder casts this ability, they gain empty maximum health equal to 350% of their max mana, and the holder then heals for this amount. So basically you are healing off of your max mana. So you don't keep gaining ability power, but you do gain the ability to heal off of it. So kind of an interesting ability. Not as damaging as some of the other ones, but you don't get the stacking ability power. But anyway, I went ahead and put that on Rise because it seems like the most useful person to have it. Note also that some of the champs are glowing on the interface. This is a new feature for set 5. If you have at least one copy of a champ, they will have like kind of this subtle glowing effect in the store. So right now I have 4 Legionnaire that provides bonus attack speed, not stacking as Duelist did in set 4. Just provides flat attack speed. Right now, 4 Legionnaire is 50% attack speed, although who knows how long that'll last. Then I have the Abomination in, which is causing Scion to come out of the grave when my Abomination champions die, and then Mystic for magic resist, as Mystic has had since time immemorial. So I don't feel like my comp is super strong here. And again, I'm not really expecting to win these rounds because I have not rolled the entire game. I am looking to econ to 8, and then I'm going to roll on 8 and look to find something. In particular, I was hoping that I could find Draven, who's one of the new carries. I had had success playing Draven. This was the 3rd game that I played of set 5 here on the very first day on the PBE. I won my first game, came in first place running Draven, and then I had a very close 5th place finish in my second game. And oh, look how close this is, but I get the better result. I get the loss, which is good here, because I'm on a 3-match now, 4-match losing streak. It's actually better to lose that round, because I take like 5 damage, but I keep the loss streak going. Now, as far as what I'd want here, I sure wouldn't mind that Garen. Garen's now a legendary unit, but Garen gets taken off the bench. Quite a few shadow items here as well, by the way. But I still have enough health bank that I'm last to pick off Carousel, which is not such a bad thing. And I'm going to go ahead and take the Chain Vest, which is on Tark, who's a 4-cost champ. And I believe my intention was just to sell that and free up the Chain Vest for use elsewhere. I was thinking that I would probably look to make a Guardian Angel with this, because Guardian Angel's, like always a useful item. And I could just put Guardian Angel on the ribbon right there. So now I've gone ahead and leveled to 8, and now I'm going to look to roll. I have found a Garen, who's a legendary unit. He doesn't fit especially well with the team comp that I'm running, but he's still probably better than something I have in. So I go ahead and put him in. Does apparently make Redeemed and puts Dawnbringer back in. And I'm still, again, pretty unfamiliar with a lot of these new units and what traits they are. So I'm going to be rolling very slowly in this game, which is probably not the worst thing if you are also trying to learn this set. But it's going to take a little while to be sure. Out of the items that I have here, let's see. I go ahead and end up making Shroud of Stillness, which I don't know if that's the ideal ideal way to make use of this item. Probably would have been better just to hold until the next minion round and see what I end up getting from the creeps. And because I don't end up getting that Shroud fast enough to even make use of it in this particular round. And again, I'm still kind of hoping I can roll and find Draven. I've been stacking this Thresh and this Katarina on my bench. They are forgotten units, which is one of the traits that Draven has, and I've been waiting to play them until I can find a Draven, but haven't really had a ton of success thus far. Now, the good news is I find a Darius, who I'm going to replace Garen with, and Darius is kind of a better fit for my comp because he is going to have Nightbringer instead of Dawnbringer, which is more of what I'm playing into. I'm kind of on the evil side of the good versus evil dynamic that's going on here. And yeah, I've got a 2-star Thresh and a 2-star Katarina, so as soon as I can find a Draven unit, I can swap into this Forgotten team setup. But I haven't found it yet, and unfortunately the one unit I'm running as my carry, which is the Riven, is the one unit that I have not 2-starred, unfortunately. At least Lux is getting off much better shields now. You can see instead of tossing her shield into the corner where it doesn't do anything, she's actually shielding most of my team, and that shielding is pretty powerful, especially if you can hit like 3 or 4 units. So overall, I'm still in relatively good shape here. I had enough health banked off of that big 9-match winning streak at the beginning of the match that I'm in pretty healthy shape here. And I have time to try to figure out what my team comp is going to be. And then I get even more Katarinas and Threshes. I'm like, could I maybe find one Draven? Because I'd really like to transfer these items off Riven and put them on Draven. Because Draven's kind of the unit that I'm more interested in here. Otherwise, I still have a bunch of frontliners. I go ahead and make that transition out of the... what unit was I even running there? I go ahead and make that transition because now that I have Darius is a knight, and Thresh is also a knight. So that's going to make that put that trait in play and also get me to 2 out of 3 Forgotten here, which doesn't put the trait in play, but gets me, again, set in case, all set up and ready to find the Draven later on. As far as what Knight does, some of you may remember this trait. It was around in some of the much earlier sets. It was in set 1, actually, and it's basically still the same thing from set 1. Knight units block a certain amount of incoming damage, and the higher the tier of Knight, the more damage they block. So it's a frontliner trait, to be sure. By the way, that's a lot of Lee Sins. not looking to play that. And finally, I make the 2-star Riven, which I was like, all right, well, okay, now I finally have 2-starred my carry unit. Riven is a 3-cost unit, so you don't really want to wait until stage 5-1 to find a 2-cost version of this. This is where you'd be looking, if you're going to play through this unit, to get closer to the 3-star version. And so now I have to try and decide what I want to do with these other items that are still on my bench. And ultimately, I believe that I end up going and making the shadow version of the rapid fire cannon, bow plus shadow bow. I believe that that's how I end up using these, because now we're not going to get components anymore. We're going to get finished items. So I might as well make use of what I have. The other option was the shadow version of Rageblade, but I didn't really want the shadow version of Rageblade because the user damages themselves with every auto attack. It is quite good, but you have to have some way of healing. Now, this person, by the way, 6 CS per minute, has found a 2-star Draven, and you're seeing what the Draven is doing. I just don't have enough damage to kill the Draven, unfortunately. So even though I have like 4 units attacking at the end there, I don't have anyone who does enough damage to kill it. All right, so here I finally find another Kindred, and I do what I should have done the first time, which is just to sell the... get rid of the Lux and just play Kindred instead, because it's a Mystic unit, but Kindred is a better version of a Mystic unit. Kindred's a legendary unit, and you know, she is going to provide that ultimate that brings people back to life on your team. Unlike in set 1, those of you who might remember Kindred from set 1, it only brings back people on your team, doesn't prevent people on the enemy team from... Actually, I think in the set 1 it also only affected your team, not the enemy team. So I believe that I'm going to just make the shadow version of rapid fire cannon here to give Kindred some extra attack range. By the way, Kindred got hooked by the enemy Thresh there. It's kind of amusing. But I do seem to be winning these rounds pretty easily now that I've 2-starred the Riven and gotten some of my other units in play. I'm just hoping I can find Draven. Unfortunately, Willow was knocked out and didn't end up having a great game here. But as we said, we're all very much trying to learn and kind of stumbling around in the dark here as far as what's going on. I did go ahead and put the Forgotten Trait in play, so I should mention what that does. Is here I go ahead and roll a bit more. Right now, what the Forgotten Trait does is it grants Forgotten Champions bonus attack damage and ability power. So a little bit like Warlord's trait from set 4, except instead of providing health and ability power, it's attack damage and ability power. So it's very offensive in nature. There's also an additional benefit where each shadow item held by a Forgotten Champion increases these bonuses by 10% on all Forgotten Champions, stacking up to 4 times. So you can, at least right now, again, very early on, you can theoretically get up to 40% of the extra bonus by having more shadow items on Forgotten Champs. Right now, I have 1 Forgotten Champ is holding Rise has a shadow item, so I'm getting a 10% bonus to that extra AD and AP. And by the way, I'm just kind of shredding through some of these comps. Even though I haven't found even 1 Draven yet, still just kind of tearing my way through these enemy team comps. But I do feel like I need to replace the Riven with something better as an endgame carry. She's okay, but she doesn't really have ideal items. And she's not anywhere close to being 3-starred or something like that. So 0 Dravens found thus far. That would be nice if I'd been able to get some of them. Here, it's another carousel, and of course we have completed items. Again, it's not that easy to see which ones are the shadow items. That little green border around them. I was waiting, of course, to see what was taken, but I see that there is a shadow version of the Bloodthirster, and I'm like, all right, well, that's a great Draven item. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. So Bloodthirster has been reworked a little bit. Bloodthirster now, it still provides the lifesteal on it, but in addition to that, Bloodthirster now provides, or the standard version of Bloodthirster provides a 40% max health shield when the unit gets low on health. The Shadow version, which is what I have here, is physical damage heals the holder for 40%, so that's the standard lifesteal. Each time the holder heals to 90% health, they gain 30% attack speed for 3 seconds, but the wearer takes 33% of their max health and true damage at the beginning of combat. Again, not that big of a penalty to take 30% of your... And there we finally get the Draven. Finally. I was actually starting to stack Rivens because I was like, well, maybe I'm just going to 3-star this unit because I'm having so much trouble finding a Draven. So the Shadow version of the Bloodthirster does not provide the health shield that you get from the default Bloodthirster, but it does provide extra attack speed at 90% health, and you can keep getting that benefit over and over again. So it's a more dangerous item. It does more, and it also damages you at the start of combat. Deals more damage, but is also a more inherently dangerous item. So I'm going to look to try and transition here. I would really like to get this Draven in, so I'm going to look to replace the Katarina. I think I maybe wait until after this last PvP round and wait for the minion round, just so I have more time to try to make a switch here, because I am still not very familiar with how I'm making this happen. As far as what Draven's traits are, I should at least highlight them because I've been doing a lot of Draven stuff in this match. His traits are Forgotten and Legionnaire. So Legionnaire, he gets that attack speed, flat attack speed, not stacking attack speed. And then Forgotten gets the attack damage and ability power. What Draven does for his ability is he spins his axes, and if he's able to keep catching them, he deals additional damage. I don't know the exact description, but that's basically what it is. Anyway, look at that Kindred ult. Really nice, but it looks like I'm still outscaled here by this other player who's gone to level 9. It looks like I don't have quite enough there, so oh well. I take 15 damage, and it doesn't look like I'm going to get to level 9 because I had to roll so much on level 8 here, but if I can 2-star a Draven, I'd be feeling pretty good about my setup. By the way, there's the normal version of Archangel Staff. I was like, all right, well, I'll just put this on the Rise. He's 2-starred. He is Forgotten, so he gets the Forgotten benefits as well. And now I'm going to look to start making this transition here. So I'm going to look to itemize the Draven. I want the Evil Bloodthirster. I want the Evil RFC. And then I'm going to put the Evil Infinity Edge on him. And by the you notice how his health drops at the beginning of the fight. This does mean that he doesn't get the Rapid Fire Cannon, but Kindred can hold that decently. Now, I don't have Ranger trade in for Kindred, but Kindred is still reasonably effective here. And now I just need to look to 2-star and try to get some of these units in. I also can drop a Forgotten because I don't need the Katarina anymore, so I'm going to look to play something else. I go ahead and toss in Volibear, who doesn't fit this comp, but is someone who is a good frontliner, so and is a legendary unit, which is never the worst option. So I opt to go ahead and play the Riven, which I have other copies of, over playing that Volibear, who's only 1-star. And then I really need to get the positioning rate, because remember, Draven has the item that sucks away attack speed from the 2 people standing next to him. But he's taking it away from Kindred, who's not someone I want to take that attack speed away from. I'm sure I can steal attack speed away from some other champion that I don't really care about over providing it to someone that is actually useful, like Kindred. And here we have, again, a Draven versus Draven match, but it looks like my Draven, as being a 1-star champ, is not quite enough to overcome that other player, 6 CS per minute, who's been on a win streak. But if I can actually 2-star my Draven, I think I actually beat that person, because he has a QSS, which is not really as useful of an item in set 5. There doesn't appear to be quite as much crowd control in this patch. By the way, I found enough Rivens at this point that if I had just gone for Riven 3-star the whole game, I probably would have been able to get it, which might have been a better option, but obviously I didn't know that was going to happen. So now I have Draven stealing attack speed away from Yasuo and Karma, which again is not ideal, but you know, it's better that Draven have that attack speed than they have it, because Draven is the carry right now. And again, still haven't found more Draven, so I'm going to sell the Morgana and sell the Katarina. And I will play the Volibear if I can get a 2-star version of it, but I still am looking for more than 1 copy of Draven here. He is easily doing the most damage for my team. And even though he takes that true damage at the start of each fight, it doesn't really matter that much, because he's usually able to heal it right back. Unfortunately, not going too well against this person who is apparently playing reroll Abomination, because they've got a 3-star version of some of their Abomination champs and a 3-star version of the Scion right there. As we go down to just 3 players remaining here in this game. So again, I'm just hoping I can find the 2-star Draven. Would really be nice to get him in this comp. There's another Draven. And more Rivens, by the way. And there we go. Finally now the pool has narrowed down here. And after rolling a ton of gold, I am in fact able to find this. Now, I'd really like to get another Legionnaire in this comp, or drop one of these champs, because I was running 3 Legionnaire, which didn't really do that much. So I opt to, drop down to 2 Legionnaire and play another frontliner in the Volibear. Volibear is a very nice frontliner. He jumps up in the air and stuns everybody in the vicinity when his mana bar fills up. And he also, I believe, breaks through enemy shields, of which there are quite a few in this game. So now that Draven's 2-starred, his damage is going to go through the roof. He's got the Infinity Edge, he's got the Evil Bloodthirster, he's got a ton of attack speed, and he's just shredding the enemy team here. This is actually the ghost, I believe, of White Knight, who is running a Kale comp. Kale, another legendary unit. So I actually win that. And White Knight's going to knock out the other player, Mons. But I was like, you know what? There's only 2 of us left now, and I just won against this player in the Ghost round. So feeling kind of good about this situation here. So I see that there's a Volibear there, and I was like, oh, that would have made Volibear 2-star. That would have been nice. And so I pick up the Nocturne. And then I was like, oh no, there was a Frozen Heart. Frozen Heart's a really strong item on a frontliner here. I could have put that Frozen Heart on the Volibear, and that would have been so nice. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and roll here. I'm looking to 2-star more of my units. Again, I'd really like to 2-star the Volibear, 2-star the Kindred, 2-star the Darius. I've only found one Darius the whole game. Now, these are legendary units, so I don't have great odds to find them, but I could have maybe found them. Unfortunately, I did not. The good news is this person doesn't appear to be paying much attention to the Shroud that I have pointed at their team, so I should be able to get off a great Shroud, and I'm feeling really good about the situation here. I was like, all right, great. I shrouded the whole team. This is looking really nice. So just got to make sure that Darius stays safe, and I should be okay. Unfortunately, Volibear dies right before he gets his ult off, and then watch Kindred. Kindred's going to ult, and come on, Kindred, protect my team. Get that healing off, and what, Kindred? No, you didn't hit anyone on my whole team. No, you didn't heal anyone on my team. So, yeah, oh, and that kill is going to ramp up, and I take exactly enough damage to finish me off, and that's kind of sad. Oh, if I had just been able to get that Volibear off the carousel, he would have been 2-starred. He would have ulted and stunned the whole enemy team. That probably would have swung the fight. Or, in honesty, I should have had the Kindred position to heal my team. I didn't realize that Kindred ults only next to herself. Well, anyway, there's some Set 5 gameplay from the PBE. I hope that you enjoyed this. We're all very much learning. All the numbers are going to change, but it should be fun to explore this over the next few weeks. Until then, hope you guys are doing well. I'll see you guys again soon. Take care.